Invincible gets sent back to the very start of the comic run, and this is how it went. Invincible 124 opens up with Debbie knocking on the bathroom door and asking Mark to come out because he's late for school, like in the very first issue. And Mark is confused, Omni-Man is fighting a dragon, Mark goes straight to school to find Eve, and reveals instantly that he knows her, saying that they need to talk. As she hesitates, but when Mark almost says Atom Eve, she says, let's go to the spot. She brings them back to their old spot. He asks how he knows her, so Mark tells her that eventually they start working together. And Mark also reveals that he knows about the Teen Team, which pricks Eve's ear. And she brings Mark to the Teen Team base where we see Rex explode, but it's old Rex explodes, so he's a bit of a prick. But Eve believes that Mark's been spying on them. So Mark tells them something that only they would know. And Robot gets back and asks what's going on. And Rex says that Invincible is trying to convince them that he's from the future. So Invincible, the G, baits out Robot and tells them that he's not even a robot. And Robot confirms this. And to prove this, they stop the people from the start of the comic that were strapping boomsticks to uni students. Robot reveals that he never told anyone in the team about his real form because he thought that they would treat him differently. And also because of his lack of humanity, it would eventually cloud his judgment and he'd do something very bad. So Eve tries to comfort him and say that he would never do that, which is worrying. So Mark says, oh god, which kind of reveals to Robot that he does do something bad, so he asks what he did. Mark doesn't reveal what kind of timing Robot is on, but Robot needs to tell him one more thing. As much as Mark wants to help, he needs to be careful messing with things in the past as it will affect things in the future. And Eve asks if Mark needs a ride home, but this was around the time that he takes out the trash in Burger Mart, so he has his powers now and flies off. At the Grayson household, they're all having dinner, and Debbie asks Mark if anything interesting happened today, and he says no. Over the next couple of days, Mark is preemptively stopping crimes that happen over in the start of the run, but the time away from his family is really getting to Mark. Next, they ward off the Flaxlands, I believe, by just waiting it out. But Invincible is found by Omni-Man, and he asks why Mark never told him about his powers, and Mark asks to talk in the sky. And Mark asks if he really loves him and Debbie. And Omni-Man tells Mark of course he loves his wife, of course he loves his child. And Mark asks him to really think about it, and then asks Omni-Man not to try and take over the world, which Omni-Man was not a fan of.